Another one?
When you just got into the industry after the college, have you ever had moments that you wanted to give up filmmaking or wanted to do something else other than filmmaking? If so, how did you overcome it?
I don't know if there's a point where I ever thought about giving up filmmaking, but there's definitely points where it sort of seems like, you know, it's insurmountable in terms of how do I mean, I think actually, I have to say that one of the things about being here and also from being from Somerset, after I lived in Swanage until I was 7 and I moved to Wells in Somerset, which is where Hot Fuzz is set. And I got to say that actually making films, and my first film that I made in the summer after I left here was shot in Somerset. And I got to say there was something about having done stuff in a small town, like it was a lot easier than, like if you're in like sort of Dorset or you're in Somerset and you're making films, like you're one of like maybe 100 people doing it. You go to London, like you're one of like 100,000 people doing it. And so that was something that I always like, was glad that I'd like done stuff in my own neck of the woods before I'd gone to London and just been, that's a tough thing, is that you're with a lot of other people who want to do the same thing. And at the end of the day, you just have to do it yourself. And there's nothing really stopping you from like making something, even if you don't have the money or like any of the contacts and stuff. Like the movie that I made in the summer after I left here, we made a film on 16mm for like 11 grand, and the 11,000 came from the local newspaper editor. I went to London and I went to like the like Arts Council grants and all that thing, and they all said no because it was, and quite rightly, it was like a really silly film. But it was like somebody in my hometown who was like, oh, you know, he just had an inheritance and he had like money to lose on a tax dodge. And so he gave us 11 grand. And we basically just kept shooting until that 11 grand ran out. So we shot for 21 days straight. And the crew was like half people from my school and half people from here, including some people from the film and TV course, who I sort of vaguely knew, but they weren't on my course. And we went to like Somerset and made this movie. But I was always like, going to London after that, there were several points where you think, you know, you're like a small fish in a big pond, and that can be really tough, and you have to find your own way to break out of it. So I think at the time I maybe like cockily kind of imagined that like, oh, I'd make this first film and then I just start making films. It didn't happen like that. And then I felt I was so fortunate to actually, through meeting some of these comedians, start working in TV. And in fact that, even though I was making stuff that was on TV, that was kind of like an extended period of college where I was actually learning what the hell I was doing through that. But I think you can always have those points at any stage in your career, like where it feels like, and making any movie is hard, like sort of, even like Baby Driver is not like an easy film to kind of like get going. And so there are several points, even before it's actually happening, where it's just so intangible and feels like this could collapse at any moment. So you always got to end up just betting on yourself. But the main thing is you just have to be extremely sort of tenacious and just not give up. And but it happens. The good thing to know is that like if you feel like the sort of like that everything's a challenge, it will never get easier, and it never should get easier. At the point where like sort of work gets easier, you're being complacent, and it's like the work suffers. So like at no point in my career have I ever felt that anything has been like easy to get going. Most of the films have been a challenge to get going, but even at the very start, it sort of seemed like, you know, how do you break through when there's so many other people trying to do the same thing? You know, it's tough, but you've just got to like, I know it sounds really trite, but you just not give up and like bet on yourself, you know?
Get on the back. I'll start with the warm up there.
Don't be like Tokyo Story and you'll be asleep by the end of this.
Hello. You mentioned earlier that while everyone was sunbathing, like you were inside editing. So my question is like, what would be your advice to us as students and potential future filmmakers? Like, what should we do at this stage?
Well, I think the thing actually, I got to say, like, you know, I was saying this earlier when we were talking about it, is I think as well as just your like coursework and stuff, all of the extracurricular things that you end up doing are so like beneficial in terms of like, I was not only doing all the syllabus here, but also I would be helping out as a runner or as an assistant editor on like some of the things on the film course, or like, you know, I'd be making like my own little films with, you know, I think we had some like day trip to Cherbourg. I can't remember why, but it was like a college day trip to Cherbourg. And me and another 2 students from the course like made this like Jean-Luc Godard like piss take. And it was like 5 minutes long and I edited it here and then it got accepted into like a German film festival. And that was like, so that's the thing is like, that was not on the syllabus. We just thought like we had a camera and it's like, let's like shoot something whilst we're in Cherbourg. And we literally like, we had like some like, bought some jetons and got some sunglasses and like a fake gun. Probably don't take that through the train now. And like tried to like make a little movie whilst we were there. And it was like, when you had that like free time, it's like, oh, now you have like free time to wander off in Cherbourg. It's like, hey, let's go make something, you know? So I think that's the thing is that I remember like all the stuff I did here on the coursework, but it's all like the other stuff that I did with friends, making stuff, helping out with their stuff, helping edit other people's like films, even like doing that Evil Dead exercise, which is so sort of like, you know, for an audience of 1, it's still something where I like learn how to kind of edit doing it, you know. So I think that's the thing is I think you sort of like, you've got to like use your time here to sort of like do everything. And also just like, and also even though it seems like sort of something like socializing, that whole element of it is something that it is key to it in terms of like, you know, most of my early movies would like star friends, and it's a part of like what I do that I miss in a way because I work with professional actors. But it's always such a fun thing for me to direct people who are like non-actors. It's something that I really miss. It was a really fun experience directing like other people on the kind of like the on the course, or sometimes their family members. You draft people in. It was like great. So, yeah.
Prepare for an influx of personal project requests now.